Ladies and gentlemen, damas y caballeros, we are back with another episode, guys. In today's episode, chapter 18 of Genesis. Let's get it. And the Lord appeared to him by the oaks of Mamre. Remember, because Abram was he's right here. This is his home, Mamre. Mamre. Let me zoom a little bit closer, see if I can. Okay, Mamre. And the Lord appeared to him by the oaks of Mamre, so on his trees. Same place that he was meeting him. I'm assuming underneath some trees or an oak tree. But it's most likely the continuation of where he's meeting him, the past times as well, at his hometown of Mamre, or city, whatever you want to call it. As he sat at the door of his tent of his house in the heat of day. So Abram was there in his house. He was standing at the door. As he sat at the door, right by the door, probably a rocking chair or something, I don't know. And it was the heat of day, so it was probably like at 2, 3 p.m. He lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, 3 men stood in front of him. Okay. When he saw them, he ran from the tent, he ran from the house door to meet them and bowed himself to the earth. He said, "My Lord, if I have found favor in your sight, do not pass by your servant." So he's saying, "Look, my Lord." So he saw them, he looked up, he saw them, he immediately ran to them, and he kneeled down on the ground. And he said, "My Lord, if I have found favor in your sight." So he's saying, "My Lord, if you so graciously, when you see me, if you so graciously do not pass by me, I'm one of your servants. Do not pass by your servant." So he's saying pretty much like, "Hey, stay with me and talk with me." Let a little water be brought and wash your feet and rest yourself under the tree, while I fetch a morsel of bread that you may refresh yourself, and after that you may pass on, since you have come to your servant. So he's saying, you know what, stop, pause a little bit, let me wash your feet and make you some bread, something to eat. Um, um, since you have come to see me, your servant. So they said, "Do as you have said." So they said, "Okay, fine, do what you want, do as you said." and Abraham hastened into the tent of Sarah and said, "Make ready quickly." So this is his wife. So he went inside the house, told Sarah, "Hey, make ready quickly 3 measures of the fine meal. Knead it," which pretty much is like make bread and make cakes. Which is interesting though, because Abram has this vast, network of people working him who are trained men. He has people to work his animals, to take care of them, to people to work. If he has any harvest, he has maids as well. And out of all of them, right, as how many people he has working for him, he still asks his wife to cook. So maybe when I'm reading this, he's probably a very humble man. Obviously, I know he was because the Lord picked him. But it kind of goes to show, like as a little example, that he is humble. That him and his wife will still do work, and his wife will still cook, even though she doesn't have to. Right? She has so many maids. So yeah, she told him, "Make ready quickly 3 meals, because there's 3 men." And then let me see where I'm at. And Abraham ran to the herd, okay, and took a calf, tender and good, and gave it to the servant. So he gave it to one of his servants, who hastened to prepare it quickly. So he hurried up to make it quickly. Then he took curds and milk. So curds, when I looked it up, it was like you can use it to make like little. If you do it long enough, you can make like cheese with it. But if not, you can also make like little like milk dough, something like that. And milk and the calf which he had prepared, and set it before them. And he stood by them under the tree while they ate. They said to him, quote, "Where is Sarah your wife?" And he said, "She's in the tent." So she's back in the house. The Lord said, "I will surely return to you in the spring, and Sarah your wife shall have a son." So he's saying, look, you're a good soldier of God. You're very loyal to me. You're very righteous, and you do as I say. And I told you before, I will reward you with a son. Here I am. I'm telling you right now, I will surely return to you in the spring, and Sarah your wife will have a son. Because we'll continue on. And Sarah was listening at the house behind the door. Now Abraham and Sarah were old, advanced in age. It has ceased to be with Sarah after the manner of woman. So that means that, like, look, they're older, right? I think Abraham at this point is like 99 or maybe 100, and she's 10 years younger than him, so she's like 90 or something like that. And it says, Now Abraham and Sarah were old, advanced in age. It has ceased to be with Sarah after the manner of woman, meaning as in she has gotten so old in age that she cannot biologically have kids, right? I think for women it's called like menopause, whenever all your eggs die out. Because, as a woman matures, she has a period. It's every time she has a period, she's losing some eggs. She doesn't regenerate any more eggs. It's not like men. So after that process, you do it so long. And I think it says if you miss your period up to a year, that means you kind of like you can't have any more kids or something like that. But it happens with women who are like in their 40s and 50s. And Sarah's well beyond that. She's like 90, right? So that's what that means. Sarah, after the manner of woman, meaning is like she cannot biologically have kids. So Sarah laughed to herself, saying, "After I have grown old, and my husband is old, shall I have pleasure?" So meaning as in like I'm so old already. Like I've grown old. My husband's old. Now I'm gonna have pleasure. Because everybody wants a kid. Everybody wants a child, and having a child and a kid is a blessing and it's pleasure, and you can have so much fun, and make memories. And she's like, so like that's really pleasure to you, like that's what it is. When I'm 90 years old and I have to take care of a child, that's pleasure. And so the Lord said to Abram, quote, "Why did Sarah laugh and say, 'Shall I indeed bear a child?' Now that I'm old." So he's listening because the Lord is all knowing, right? So he's in front of Abram, underneath the tree. She's at the house behind the door, listening to them. She heard the Lord say, "I will give Sarah a son by next spring." She heard that. She's laughing. Okay. He said, immediately he said to Abraham, "Why did Sarah laugh and say," and she quoted her word for word, "Shall I indeed bear a child now that I am old?" And he said, he asked that to Abram, "Why is she laughing? Is anything too hard for the Lord?" Meaning as in like, look, you know who I am. He's pretty much telling him, you know who I am. You know what time it is. I can do anything that I please. I'm the Lord. Is anything too hard for the Lord? Nothing. Like it's like a rhetorical question, meaning as in like, come on, whenever I say and I give you my word, it's gonna happen. So is anything too hard for the Lord? At the appointed time, I will return to you in the spring, and Sarah shall have a son. So meaning as in the time that I told you in the spring, I'm assuring you, because she's kind of like laughing it off and stuff. At the appointed time, I will return to you. So when I told you in the spring, so in the spring I'll return to you, and Sarah shall have a son, like I told you. Trust. But Sarah denied, saying, "I did not laugh." So she said after God said, "Why is Sarah laughing?" She's like, "I did not laugh," because she was afraid of the presence of the Almighty Lord. He's calling her out, saying, "Why did you laugh?" She's like, "I didn't laugh. I did not laugh." She was scared. He said, "No, but you did laugh." Okay. And then the men, remember there's three men. Then the men set out from there, and there's three men, all right, and it's the Lord and two angels. Then the men set out from there, and they looked toward Sodom. Remember, Sodom is right here, and it's a very wicked and evil place. Remember that. Remember whenever Lot and Abram were having a little bit of conflict with their herdsmen, and Abram said, "Lot, we're kinsmen, we're blood. There's no need for us to argue or fight, or even the people that work with us to argue and fight. Um, choose which land you want and go there." And Lot looked around, and he saw that Sodom and Gomorrah were beautiful beyond belief, similar to the Garden of Eden. And water was flowing there. You didn't have to worry about too much of the water. Water was abundant. It was fruitful beyond belief. It was like very good if you wanted to plant. It's just a beautiful place to be. But there was many wicked people there, and there was people that were not followers of God, and very sinful people, and people that went against God and His will, but He chose it. That's important to know. So He says, then the men set out from there. So the angels set out, and they looked towards Sodom. So they went towards Sodom, and Abraham went with them to set them on their way. So like, hey, look, we got to go to Sodom, and Abraham's kind of like, okay, let me walk with you guys out there. Similar to like you walk people out after they come to your house. Then the Lord said, "Shall I hide from Abraham what I'm about to do, seeing that Abraham shall become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall bless themselves by him? No, for I have chosen him, that he may charge his children and his household after him, to keep the way of the Lord by doing righteousness and justice, so that the Lord may bring to him what he has promised him." So he's saying, look, should I really tell Abram what I'm about to do right now? Remember, he sent out two of his angels to Sodom. Something's going down. We don't know what it is, but something's going down. He's saying, and the Lord knows that Lot, his nephew, right? His brother's son is there. So he's saying, shall I hide from Abram what I'm about to do? He's like, seeing that Abram shall become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall bless themselves by him. No, for I have chosen him, that he may charge his children and his household after him to keep the way of the Lord by doing righteous and justice. So he's like, I'm not gonna tell him what I'm gonna. He's like, no, because he's the one who's him and his generations are gonna be doing righteous and justice. Because if I tell him, some things might happen, right? Something I don't want it to interfere with what's going on with his life. Then the Lord said, because the outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is great and their sin is very grave, I will go down to see whether they have done altogether according to the outcry which has come to me, and if not, I will know. So he's saying, because, remember, Sodom and Gomorrah is very wicked. They told us this chapters ago, okay? Now we can kind of pull one and two together. Something's going to go down in Sodom and Gomorrah. So it says, because the outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is great and their sin is very grave. So he's saying, all the wickedness and evil and sin that they're doing, people, I can see the outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and their sin is very grave. I can feel it. I can hear people who possibly get murdered or get raped or get pillaged or do, they do so much sin. People pray about it. It's so great, and the sin is very grave because of how grave it is. I will go down to see whether they have done altogether according to the outcry. So he's going to go down there. He's going to see what's going on. He wants to see it with his own eyes, the wickedness, which has come to me. And if not, I will know. So something big's going to go down. So it says, so the men turned from there and went towards Sodom. So the two angels went to Sodom. But Abraham still stood before the Lord. Okay. So they were talking about this whole little part right here that we just said. That should we tell him? Should we not? The outcry is so grave that it's coming to me. I need to see it for myself. There's all saying this in front of Abraham. He's probably like, wait, what's going on? Like, I have my nephew Lot there. What's going on? So the men turned from there and went towards Sodom. So the two angels went to Sodom. But Abraham still stood before the Lord. Then Abraham drew near and said, will thou indeed destroy the righteous with the wicked? So he's saying, look, by the way you're talking, it sounds like you're going to destroy the city of Sodom and Gomorrah. And he's like, he said that's like in his head. And so he tells the Lord, will you indeed destroy the righteous from the wicked? So he's saying, look, I know Sodom and Gomorrah is very evil and very wicked, but there are probably some good people in there. Are you really going to destroy just everybody? Are you going to kill even the innocent, the righteous? He says, suppose there are 50 righteous within the city. Will you then destroy the place and not spare it for the 50 righteous are in it? Far be it from you to do such a thing, to slay the righteous from the wicked, so that the righteous fare as the wicked. Right? So he's saying, you wouldn't do that stuff, right? You wouldn't slay the righteous as well with the wicked. You would separate them, right? Because you're Lord, right? So he's kind of like narrow elements, like a little, like in a corner, saying, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Far be that from thee. It's like, come on, there's no way you could do that. Shall not the judge of all the earth do right? So he's saying, the Lord is the judge of all, right? We all know that. He's telling him, shall the Lord himself of all earth do right? Aren't you going to do what's right? And the Lord said, quote, if I find at Sodom 50 righteous in the city, I will spare the whole place for their sake. Abraham answered, behold, I have taken upon myself to speak to the Lord. I who am but dust and ashes. So he's saying, look, I've taken myself to speak to the Lord to try to convince him, like, come on. Or at least try to, give him some input, saying, come on, you can't just say the right. He's saying, come on, like, my camera died on. Let me remember what I had. It's like, you can't be, you're the Lord, right? You're the one who, he's saying, behold, I have taken upon myself to speak to the Lord. I'm the one who's saying, you know what, let me give him some input, or let me give him what I say. I am but just dust and ashes. But he's saying, suppose 5 of the 50 righteous are lacking. So he's saying, let's say you find 50 righteous. Okay, let's say 5 of those people are lacking. They could do better, but they're still not perfect, right? Will you destroy the whole city for lack of 5? And he said, I will not destroy it if I find 45 there. Fine, 45. It was 50 righteous. Now I'll give you 45. He said, I will not destroy it if I find 45 there. Okay. Again he spoke to him and said, suppose 40 are found there. He answered, for the sake of 40, I will not do it. So now it's down to 40 righteous. Then he said, "Oh, let not the Lord be angry." So, like, please don't be mad. I know I'm asking too much, but just don't be mad. And I will speak. Suppose 30 are found there. He answered, I will not do it if I find 30 there. He said, Behold, I have taken it upon myself to speak to the Lord. Suppose 20 are found there. So he keeps on trying to lower the number, right? Because he doesn't want it to be destroyed. He said, uh, suppose 30 are found there. He answered, I will not do it if 30 are there. He's saying, okay, fine, 30. He said, Behold, I have taken it upon myself to speak to the Lord. Suppose 20 are found there. He answered, For the sake of 20, I will not destroy it. Then he said, Oh, let not the Lord be angry, and I will speak again, for this once, and once only. Suppose 10 are found there, 10 righteous in the city, of the entire city. He answered, For the sake of 10, I will not destroy it. And the Lord went his way, and when he had finished speaking to Abraham, and Abraham returned to his place. So he's saying, look, it was up to 50. The Lord said, okay, fine, Abraham. If there's 50 righteous in the entire city, I'll save it. But then he said, okay, and then he kept on, he's like, okay, well, let me try to go to 45. Okay, let me go to 40. Let me go to 30. Let me go to 20. And at the very end, it got down to 10. So he says, if I find 10 people that are good people there in that entire city, okay, I won't wipe it down. And then he went off, and Abraham returned to his place. So that's it for chapter 18. We'll see what happens, guys. Come back in chapter 19 to see what happens to Sodom and Gomorrah. But the way it looks like it, the city is so evil, right? The cities are so evil and so wicked. So much sin is going to happen. So much outcry is going on in that city that the Lord himself had to go in person to go see it. And he has a plan of destroying that whole city. Because if you mess around with the Lord and Savior, bad things are going to happen. So come back in chapter 19, guys. That's it for chapter 18. Hope you guys like it. Hope you guys have a blessed and good day. And I'll see you in the next one.